Hello and welcome back to The Dive, Season 5, Episode 7. We've made it halfway through the split. And as a quick reminder, we are going to continue to push out these episodes at 5 a.m. on Tuesdays. So set your alarm if you want to wake up, because we will not.
Ain't nobody waking up that early in esports, Kobe.
Hey, it's
You don't
8
know
o'clock
that.
on the East Coast, man.
People in different time zones will wake up that early.
I think you have a better chance of saying, before you go to bed, you can catch the dive at 5 a.m.
True.
After
you've been
Valheiming all
tilted
night,
out
you
of
can-
your mind in your solo queue games.
After you die to the boss of Valheim again, and while you're going to get your body back, you can listen to us.
How has that been, Mark? I heard the travel times are really bad. I think Azael was saying that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty early in the game, so I just beat my first boss, and like the next zone is pretty close. But I do feel like I can see in the future a time where I'm going to be like, oh, I don't want to have to run all this way. I assume you just like build a new town or something again.
Yeah, you can build portals and you can build little towns along the way, but like, damn, the travel time is something in that game. For the second boss I was playing with my friends, it took somewhere between an hour and 15 minutes and an hour and a half minutes to get to get there. And then it's like you get there and we kill the boss and I was like, do I even want to walk back? No, I think I'm good. I think I'm just going to log out and never play again. So that's where I'm at with Valheim right now.
That's a kicker at the end.
Yeah.
I'm logging out forever.
Yeah,
Hey,
well,
sense of accomplishment. Let's go.
if I ever log back in, I'm going to have to walk back unless maybe my friends build a portal or something. So maybe that
Just
would
build
give
a
me
new
login.
home. That's
Yeah,
the
we
solution.
did, but then you'd have to get everything transferred over there. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's a pretty fun game. Let's talk a bit about fantasy. I lost again. Fantasy sucks.
Me too. I hate it.
Yeah,
I'm the winner. Woo! I won today.
yeah. But see,
week.
Kobe's just a lucker dog. He just doesn't realize how lucky he is. If you direct your eyes to the points against column, this is how well your opponents are doing against you, which you don't control at all, really. 962
Yes, you do.
points.
That's my
the least
main
points.
strength is that I have banned away the most
Kobe,
points
against
of anyone
doesn't-
in the league.
Points against doesn't include the bans. You got 962 points against you as the base. I have 1,316 points against me as the base. We got the same amount of points earned, Kobe.
I also have the highest points banned away from my opponents. Yet again, this week, I banned away 7 bans from Crumbs, and I would have lost if I did not ban away points from Crumbs.
So it's a coach gap
Presiding
for
judge.
Kobe then.
Presiding judge MarkZ rules in favor of Kobe. His wins are legit. He's not just a lucker dog. He is the ban lord.
He can. There could be a coach gap, and he could also be a lucker dog. You know, it could be both.
That's the best, to be skilled and lucky.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm currently neither. I'm just I have a roster that's not playing well. Even my first picks, like, okay, my CLG bot lane is going to struggle some games and gonna turn in some stinkers. I expected that. I did not expect the amount of stinker games I'm getting out of Someday and Demonte as my first 2 picks. So I'm definitely feeling a little sad. Dardock's the hero of my team right now. I'm loving him. But yeah, I'm not feeling great. I think I'm going to stay down the bottom of the standings there.
Yeah, my tactical, unless tactical really steps it up, he's not doing so well for me. Tactical really has not been getting the points I was expecting. I was like, well, TL just won lock-in. Of course, the marksman is going to be racking up all these kills. They're going to be winning all their games. Tactical really has not gotten too much done for me at all. And a Blaze Olive has been like tanking my team. There's like 100-point gap between a Blaze Olive and every other mid laner every week. It feels like got 0.7 points in his first game and like 3 points in his second game. I'm looking over and my opponent has like 90 points. So I'm like, what am I supposed to do here? Come on, Blaze Olive.
You got to ban away every single champion that the opponent mid laner played, or else you're screwed.
My
Or you
ban and
get
pick was
negative
the
points
same.
if you have
I
like
couldn't.
Niles or something. I banned away the only positive game that Niles had, and so Crumbs got negative points for having him.
Oh God.
Yeah, Niles is struggling for sure. I've seen him have back-to-back negative point games for Crumbs this week. So at least I don't have Niles, I guess. But we're in a 10-team league, so there's no roster swaps to be made because every player has been picked up. So maybe I just gotta beg Blaze Olive to drag out the games, get some more dragons or something. You know, my match was against Yasuo, and it came down to like 10-point difference or something, and I had Impact as the last player playing. and I was just hoping that EG wouldn't ace them and that it would go to like Elder because you get points for Elder Dragon and stuff. It was actually
Jizuke went back for the Elder too to help you get those fantasy points, dude.
well, he didn't get Elder. He got Infernal Soul. But you know what the saddest part was? They had that one fight in the base, and Impact was TPing in, but his TP got interrupted, so we got no assists. Otherwise, I actually would have won if he got assists on all those kills. So
wow, is that close?
Yeah, it came down to the very end. Fantasy's been pretty fun. It seems like Tigris has already won the whole league. She's like 400 points above second place or something. The triple Cloud9 or whatever she has is just absolutely farming everyone. Sweet. All right. Big topic this week. If you've been on social media at all, you've been seeing memes about it. You've been seeing retweets on it. Imports. The owners want them. The fans hate them. The players are memeing them. It's all the rage right now. There's. Go ahead, go.
The fan.
I'm just kidding.
The fans don't hate imports. The fans definitely don't want the entire league to be imports and to be overrun, especially with how much work has gone into getting even the conversation going around building up new NA talent and infrastructure and investing in the next generation of stars and players coming forth. I think it is really easy and simple to lay out the theoretical owner side of this, which has been talked about ever since we had the import rule, by the way. This conversation is not a brand new conversation. It's just come to the spotlight in the community right now because all 10 teams have kind of lobbied for it at the same time, and some interesting characters have had some interesting takes on it in a very public platform. I will say, like, okay, so, and I'm not for removing the rule, by the way. I'm just going to lay it out there, for their side, for the simple side of it. It's simple supply and demand. For their argument, they're saying, yes, we want to make more competitive teams. If we increase the supply, we should theoretically, with the same restrictions, and even if they claim, oh, we're going to spend the same money, you should theoretically be able to get, stronger team to have more players to scout through. They also could save more money because things like inflating a salary of a player that has residency in North America right now really does go through the roof because of the import rule. And so that's kind of the setup for it there. It's a lot more nuanced than that, though, and you kind of ignore the fact that then you lose out on North America and the North American players.
Yeah, I mean, the problem I have some with like the owners things is I haven't really heard a great argument for why they think this will actually be good, not just for like one team's success potentially at Worlds to go a little further, but like for the scene as a whole, because it's a global rule. They don't have just sole ownership over what happens to this rule. It does affect every league, and it would be largely, as far as I can tell, negative, not just for North America. We obviously take a North American perspective because we're all NA here, but like you would see talent from other regions coming over. Like if you're going up against Chovy and let's say you're also not with Showmaker on DRX or whatever, and you're BDD, like maybe you just come to NA and you have a better shot at winning NA, which sounds good at first for us, but then LCK becomes less interesting, less competitive because a lot of the talent gets spread around across the world, which is not great. Like you already said, the NA talent will often get pushed down, and it just is something that also, one of the things is I've done a couple polls on other situations, like on Hotline League or on Twitter and stuff, and it's about 70% of NA fans seem to be against it. Not saying that like this is the optimal polling, but like at least from all the data I can find, seems pretty heavily not what the fans want. And it gives big, like, you think you do, but you don't vibes, from like WoW Classic. Like, that's the kind of vibes I'm getting, especially with how the owners are interacting with fans who are saying they're not interested in this. It's very big, you think you do, but you don't vibes.
I mean, I just think it's, of course, the owners want this, right? It gives you more options. Yes, if all you care about is either, being able to have the most options for your roster to, it's like, okay, I want to spend all this money. All right, now I have more players to choose from. I don't have to get this NA guy on my team. If I could buy a Korean player for $1 million instead, great. Okay, I understand that. And I also understand the perspective of, I want to save money. I'm an owner. I want to spend the least possible amount on this team while having the best possible result. And well, you could maybe do that by buying up amateur players from Europe or Korea or China. Go check out EU Masters, buy a team, go watch a little bit of the LPL Academy, buy a team, right? Like, I understand why they want to do that. To your point, Mark, you're saying you haven't heard a great argument for why it's good for the league. I think that's because it's not good for the league. It's not good for the scene. And there is no real argument other than, hey, like, oh, we could win worlds maybe, or hey, like, I'm going to save some money. But they're not going to say that because that's like not a good argument for them to make because fans don't care. And I think that at the end of the day, it's weird to me that, like, in these owner statements, I'm hearing they're like, of course, alongside that, we're going to put more into academy. It's like
misdirect.
No, you're not. Like, why would you do that? There already is. This year has been the biggest push forward on amateur and academy and NA talent coming into LCS. And it's like, and now is when you're making a big push to have no import rule. To me, that's the exact opposite, right? Like, these are two diametrically opposed things. It's like, if you get all of these imports and you unlock players from all these other regions, there's no logical reason to continue putting more money into amateur, right? Like, there just isn't. I just don't buy that people are going to double down on their investment for amateur and for the NA scene when all of a sudden you don't even need NA players anymore. And I think that if you fill the LCS with imports, you also kill any motivation for up-and-coming talent in North America to even try to go pro. Like, why would I bother if the league is already filled with imports from around the world, right? There's just no spots to be had. So I think it would be a huge blow to the North American scene. And I also think, coming from a background in StarCraft 2, I cast StarCraft 2, I watched all the matches, I played all the time, I lived in the pro gaming house with all the EG StarCraft guys, right? Like, I lived and breathed StarCraft. I was around it 24/7. And to me, even though, like, the GSL was the highest level, that was the Korean league, and yes, sometimes a foreigner qualified in, but like pretty much it was only Koreans. I loved watching GSL, but WCS was, BlizzCon basically, and it was like the equivalent of Worlds, right? Where you have people qualifying from all the different regions, and they would go and compete. And my favorite memories, like all my favorite memories of StarCraft matches, were watching these like underdog stories, like Ken of Foreigner take down one of these, incredible Koreans, and having this feeling of like cheering for the home team, right? Cheering for the underdog. And I loved that. And when they did, take them down, you had these memorable matches that just stick with you. And I have the same feeling when Cloud9 made semis, and when TL made finals of MSI, and when CLG, made finals of MSI. These matches were so meaningful to me. And when they removed the region lock, essentially what happened was you had Korean players then just go qualify in every region. So all the North American representatives became Korean. All the European representatives essentially became Korean, minus maybe like one or two of the absolute elite players. Like, maybe there's like a Scarlet in there, or a Thorazane, or, a whatever, a Stefano or something. And it just like killed the feeling of the home team, right? And, to me, it's like, if you bought Damwon and put Damwon in LCS and Damwon won Worlds again, would I get that feeling of like, we finally did it? No, I wouldn't. Right?
Spoilers alert.
Yeah. like look at how Kobe reacted when Cloud9 made semis. The man was emotional. Like, that was a genuine reaction. That was amazing, right? Like, and I felt like that too, right? Like, I remember watching that game. I wasn't casting that game, but I was jumping up and down and I was screaming, and like, we were like, people were feeling like we're gonna cry, and like we're emotional, we're invested, and it was like, damn, we finally did it, right? We finally fucking did it. And you will never get that, never, if you remove the import rule and you fill the league with non-resident players. So I am really passionate about this. I really hope it never happens. And
Yeah. The craziest part of it to me, I agree with everything that you said, is the timing of it. Because as you started out, we had so many episodes where we're talking about, building up NA talent, and now we're starting to see, the emergence. Tactical on the world stage had a great performance, and Speak and all these, budding stories that are starting out. just to come in with this, remove the import rule now seems like kind of a crazy coincidence of timing there. That just, there is no way that I don't know how they would think that anyone would have a positive reaction to this, and I guess it's no surprise that there hasn't been.
And that's also kind of why I'm surprised to hear that all 10 owners are seemingly for it, because yes, it makes their jobs easier in some sense, but it also, you would think, just like long-term thinking, like, is not great for those reasons. Even like Vulcan had a tweet about how, like, okay, you bring Damwon over, make them play in NA for a year on 60 ping with like worse competition, and then you put them up against the best LPL team. Like, do you think they win? And I think most people would say probably not. And that's assuming you get the absolute cream of the crop best team that you can possibly assemble in this situation. So like, I don't see it really resulting in what the owners want anyways, on top of the fact of all this stuff. And a lot of the arguments just really don't land for me. Like I've heard teams saying like, oh, we're a global we're a global organization. We have teams in Rainbow Six that's from Europe or Brazil or something. And it's like, yeah, that's a different scene. You play in a regional league right now. We have a regional system here. And there's comparisons to Overwatch League and stuff, but Overwatch League was a single league, all the teams had to play in that league. There was not another league in Korea that played with better competition and better players that you could just watch another night that those people could be fans of. All the Korean players who played in Overwatch League brought the Korean fan base with them. But if you get discount Damwon on NA, like that, they're not going to necessarily bring the Korean fan base with them. And so like, you get this really, like, a lot of really bad comparisons that I just don't think hold up at all under scrutiny. And like you said, it feels like a lot of misdirection instead of just stating like the actual case that you think that would be the strongest case, because none of these really hold up. Like, you just think it's going to be easier to win, maybe. And that, I would rather hear that argument than like we're a global org and some of these kinds of things.
Yeah, I've heard some of the fans. I think most fans are against it, but some of the fans have also, seen referencing traditional sports. It's like, well, I don't care. Like, I cheer for the Yankees, and the Yankees get the best players from wherever they're from. And it's like, yeah, but there's a difference because there's geolocation in traditional sports, right? I cheer for the Raptors, and I don't actually care if all the Raptors are Canadian or not, because that is the team that I associate with my home, right? Like, that is something different. And I just don't think, like, realistically, that the LCS and really most esports at all are actually ready for geolocation. And that's kind of, to me, like, felt like it's been proven a bit. I don't think that it really worked with Overwatch. It's enormously expensive to actually have like a home city and try to have this traveling roadshow all around all the time. Not just travel expenses, but actually all the teams having to set up their own like stadiums and own studios and everything to be able to have it in different locations. It's just not feasible really at this point, right? There is still that gap. And I don't think that you can sell out an esports stadium, besides maybe like in the LPL, where it's just like so enormous, and they actually do have, some geolocation in different cities. I just don't think that it's ready right now for almost any game or any region except maybe China. So I think that it's important to maintain ties with regional players. And the only other thing I'll say, and then I'll let you guys go whatever you want, is that there's already a ton of imports in the league, right? It's not as though there's no imports here. Like all the top teams already have 2 imports plus someone with residency, pretty much, right? Like, look at Team Liquid, right? It's just tactical. You have Jensen, who, he built his career here, and that does feel very different than just getting a fresh import in. So I think it's great that he has earned residency, because to me, he's basically just an NA player. It felt the same way about Bjergsen. These guys built their careers here, and they earned that residency. But, Team Liquid has 2 imports. They have, Santorin and Jensen, who are Europeans, but earned residency, and then 1 NA player who has residency, right? Like, it's not as though there's not already a ton of imports in the league. There are.
Yeah. The thing I like about residency is it removes the mercenary feeling that people are scared of. And that's what people are scared of with this news of, fully removing an import rule and being scared of full teams being bought up, just coming over, winning, leaving, and not really building those connections or setting down roots. Bjergsen had his basically whole career in North America. Yeah. He is for sure a North American player. Even European fans don't try and make the European mid laner jokes with Bjergsen anymore. Like, he's for sure through and through. Like, these guys are making their whole lives when they move over here about North America, their whole careers, but also they're, they all have girlfriends, their families, lots of stuff is like, it's just, I think the only scary thing is like, that, I guess, just coming back to the mercenary feeling, that's what people don't want. And we've seen like some of these arguments gets taken to the extreme of like, oh, so you don't want any foreign players, huh? And that's just kind of a falsehood right there.
Yeah, I mean, everyone is fine with a path to residency, because that gives them time to grow in the community and in the scene. You start out, maybe we're not super connected to core JJ the first time he came to North America, but then over time and having more success and spending more time in the community, people warm to him. Same with Impact, people were excited to get a world champion at first, but I think over the 6+ whatever it is years he's been here, it's grown to be like all the top die memes and all this stuff that really contributes to the community that you don't necessarily have if it's someone who had never played in the scene before.
Yeah, to Azael's earlier point, would I get that same, feeling if I see Impact up on stage clapping people for North America and actually getting a victory?
Hell yeah!
Hell yeah! I'd be fucking crying and cheering and screaming my ass off because Impact is NA, baby. Like, yeah, that's the difference,
And I will acknowledge that like some fans don't care, and I don't want to pretend like these fans don't exist or not acknowledge like their feelings and stuff, because like if you're a fan who's like, I just want the best team available, I want to watch the highest League of Legends, and you want, you don't care if Team Liquid goes and just spends money to, if this rule got removed and they grabbed a bunch of people, and you just want to see, Team Liquid succeed, that's fine. Like, that's totally okay. I don't think that that's necessarily like you're wrong to think that way, but I think you do have to acknowledge that the majority of the fans do not think that way, and the scene as a whole will suffer from that. And you still have the option to watch the highest League of Legends right now. Like, I know the time zones aren't great, but like, you can watch LPL, you can watch LCK, and watch those best players in the world currently in our minds, and see them compete almost every night of the week. You're not really losing anything with the current setup that you would get in the new one if you did remove the import rule.
Exactly. I mean, if you don't have any ties to the team or to the region, and you just care about the best League of Legends team, just go watch the world champion team play, right? Like, and I think that there's evidence that people do actually care. Maybe they don't necessarily, it doesn't hit home until they do watch, but like, LPL English broadcast is growing, to be fair, and I think that they have wonderful casters. Like, I actually really like it. I watch a lot of LPL. But when you look over the last handful of years, like, the LPL has been dominating. And 2-3 years ago, like, sometimes you'd tune into an LPL English broadcast on Twitch, and the top games would get some decent viewership. But like, sometimes I'd open it up, there's like 5,000 people watching, right? And there's not a YouTube stream for LPL English. Like, that was the whole viewership. And sometimes it's a lot better than that, and it is growing, as I said. But I think at the end of the day, like, I love having the connection to the players. And if it's an NA rookie coming up, I've probably seen them in solo queue. I've probably seen them in amateur. I've probably seen them in collegiate. I've seen them somewhere, like Revenge coming in. Some players ask me, like, what's the difference between a new NA rookie coming in and an LPL rookie? And it's like, well, Revenge is a good example because he's a solo queue star. So it's like, maybe that one's like a little bit too unfair or whatever. But still, like, I got to watch him play in solo queue so many times and see him on people's streams, and I was excited to see how he would match up. Even guys like Niles, I watched collegiate, right? And I got to see them, win in collegiate, and kind of wondering like how they're going to stack up. And I think that you do develop a connection because I watch a lot of Twitch streams. I watch a lot of this stuff, and you get to see these players over the years. So even if they're fresh to the LCS, I have some experience with them. I have some experience watching them, and have maybe some preconceived notions, and it makes me excited to see them go to the next level. All right, Mark, I know you wanted to talk about this. I kind of want to talk about this a little bit too. Most competitive LCS ever. I feel like it's something that comes up every year. People get excited. There's a couple upsets, and then someone's going to yell out, "Most competitive year ever!"
Is it the most competitive LCS we've ever seen? No, not at all. Not even close. Not even, within smelling distance of that. We have some teams that are legitimately far below the others. What? You giggling at?
What is smelling distance, Mark?
How long?
How strong is the smell? Like, the smell.
There's another saying that I couldn't quite remember about farts.
Smelt it, you dealt it.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. The point is, it's not close. All right. No offense to CLG and Golden Guardians, these teams, but you're not even close to C9 or 100 Thieves right now. And we have had splits where this split ended and everyone is within like 3 games of each other. We've had a 6-way tie for second or third place, whatever it was in 2018 spring. You know, like 100 Thieves was like last place and within like the last 2 weeks grabbed first place in the regular season or something. Like we have had insane splits. We had splits with Envy and Lyra jungling where they were like not a cakewalk and like he would Hulk out on you and they were like actually decent as like the quote unquote last place team, you know, like I just don't see how this is even close to me. And even the top end, like you can maybe say that, but like I don't think C9 right now is like this insano team with 100 Thieves also this insano team. And by the way, Dignitas is this insano team and like we're going to go and have a great international performance right now. Like I don't think there's evidence of that.
So 2018 summer, 3 games between first place and 7th place. 1 game between 3rd place and 7th place. Just to put it into context. That was, I think, you mentioned spring. I think summer was even closer. So like that to me was the split that I was thinking of, where it was like Optic went 9-9, didn't make playoffs, and 2nd place was Cloud9 with 2 more wins than them. You know, that was a split that was insanely close as far as standings, as far as competition. This one feels pretty like there are upsets and there have been surprises, and I think that's what's leading to this feeling of like, oh my god, I thought CLG would have a couple more wins, or oh my god, TL's only 5-4 and they just won lock-in. Wow, this is really competitive.
Dignitas just beat this team. Oh my god.
So there have been upsets. I do still have that feeling though that like by the end it's going to be, the top 4 is going to be Cloud9, TSM, 100 Thieves, and TL. And I like that we have a really strong 4 up at the top. And if Dignitas can continue to surprise and continue to upset, that would be even more exciting. But if we can have 4 or 5 teams that legitimately could take each other down in playoffs is going to be incredible. Like that's going to be so fun. You don't need 10 teams. And really, we don't have 10 teams that are legitimately challenging for the championship right now.
This is a problem whenever anyone uses hyperbole or goes for a most ever statement. Because if people were making the statement, hey, our top end of the league is really competitive right now, you guys would be like, sounds great.
Yeah.
I'm all on board.
I'm
Good story. A great one, because we have had a lot of seasons where it is only a few teams at the top that are like top 3 teams, and then you have maybe a middle bracket, and then you also still have the bottom one. But right now, I would say, top 6, because I do include Dignitas and I do include Evil Geniuses in this band with Cloud9, TSM, 100 Thieves, Team Liquid, as all being able to take games off each other easily on any given day. And I think that is exciting, and that's the feeling that people are latching onto. Yes, you do have the bottom 4 kind of on the outs, on the outside, on the bottom, but that has been kind of the story of this split of the development rosters and the development leagues. And this split is maybe, I don't have data because we only have leaks to go off of and rumors to go off of for salaries for teams. But this is at least very close to a year where we have had some of the biggest discrepancies in team spending ever, because their situations are so different. With Cloud9, TSM obviously having those really big, highly publicized giant signings, and then teams like Golden Guardians coming out with videos talking about how their funding is removed and they're going with this different route. So given that kind of stratosphere of a difference, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Has been a really fun split. Not the most competitive ever, I would say, though. Honda MVP time. What up, Honda? We love you. This time we're going to do a fun award. So what we're going to talk about, instead of who's the actual Honda MVP or who we think is going to be that, we're going to mix it up a bit. So this is going to be the Bengi Award. I don't know if Bengi Award even really works for it, but who do you guys think is the second best player on a team? The second best player. So not the main star.
The Robin Award.
That's
not
good.
Batman.
Yeah,
it's
a sidekick. It's a sidekick.
Because Bengi was really good, and I'm not trying to make anything out of Bengi,
he wasn't really the second best
guy.
player. Yeah.
Yeah, he was rarely even the second best player on his team, and he didn't get the attention that he was almost kind of memed as like not being that good, but he was actually really good. He just was not the flashy player. So
okay, so it's the best Robin award. Yeah,
I like the Robin award for sure.
yeah.
All right, who's your pick then for the best Robin?
So we're saying currently, right? So we kind of have to do
Right
it
now.
a little bit off of how the teams are doing right now.
So you
All
got to
right,
go
so
with a team that's got an obvious Batman also.
So I'm saying right now, Blabber is Batman,
Yes.
and I'm gonna say that Vulcan is
answer.
Robin.
Okay. Nope.
See,
nope.
they have
Vulcan's.
Go ahead.
Vulcan's Catwoman to me, and yeah,
Is
Robin
that, is that like the third one or what?
Wait,
I don't know.
Catwoman
Isn't
was
Catwoman
like
a
sometimes
villain?
against
This doesn't
them.
even work. Yeah.
Catwoman
Yeah,
started
was it-
as a villain.
Yeah,
I'm
your
not a
analogy
great
sucks.
lore on Batman. I guess Batgirl.
They're not a bad
Vulcan's
expert.
Batgirl. Sven is Robin. Sven is the I think the most consistent member on that team. I almost never see Sven being a dum-dum, messing things up. I think Sven's been incredible as like a consistent carry for the team. And Blabber, like you're saying, is Batman making all the flashy plays, but Robin's there swooping in to like, I don't know, it's falling apart. Get me out
So
of here.
Vulcan's not Robin. So is Vulcan?
I wanted
gonna
to
be,
one up it and then ask you guys who fudges in your Batman world for this one, because you could make
Fudge is the
arguments.
Batmobile. and Blabber's driving around in them sometimes.
I was
And-
gonna
and,
say the butler. What's the butler's
Yeah,
name?
Alfred. That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say Perks is
Alfred.
Alfred. Yeah.
But he's like, Blabber uses him, right? Blabber, he's useful to Blabber, so he's got to be like the Batmobile, or maybe he's like
Or the
Batman's utility
utility
belt.
belt.
Yeah, like he's one of the little batarangs or something. Blabber can go up there and be like, "Go Fudge, ha!" and throws out his Fudge, and Fudge like smacks him, and then Blabber gets some kills and
Throws
goes
at
back
his
to fighting
fudge.
crime on the other side of the map.
Kobe, what's your answer?
My problem with the Cloud9 example is there's a lot of good candidates for Robin. I
They're
feel
kind of like Power Rangers.
yeah, exactly. That does kind of feel like that.
Mm.
I was trying to go down the list and trying to go through it with either Team Liquid or Dignitas. And for
Okay,
Dignitas,
well, if you're going Team Liquid, Core JJ is Batman, right?
yeah, exactly. And I was gonna throw Robin to Alfari.
Alfari. Okay.
So that was my Team Liquid one, but my Dignitas one, I then got stuck on like, okay,
Is,
I'm pretty
Dardoch
sure that
or Afro?
Dardoch, I'm pretty sure that Dardoch is Batman, because he's
Ooh.
doing all the jungle challenge. They literally built the team around him. He was the first one signed. But if Afromo is Robin, Robin is looking pretty buff.
I think.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I don't know if Dardoch personality-wise would be able to handle being called the Robin of the team. Like I think Afro could take that and be like, whatever, man, be chill about it. But like Dardoch has to be Batman. Like you can't make him number 2.
But I feel like Afro's kind of the rookie whisperer. He's player of the week this week. He's kind of feeling pretty Batman-y to me. It's a tough call there though. But those are some pretty good answers. I like this segment. This was a fun one. Maybe we'll come up with some more fun ones. But that's gonna be our Honda MVP section. Thank you again, Honda. On to the LCS. So we're at our midway point of the spring split, right? Obviously, we're 6 weeks into competitive because we had lock-in and everything, but we are at the halfway point. What are your big surprises? Like, what has actually mostly stood out to you thus far, 9 games in?
I'd say there's one big positive and one big negative in terms of like perception. That'd be Dig and TL. Like Dig has been a very pleasant surprise. They're really fun to watch. They do creative things. They're generally pretty active. I like watching Dignitas games, and I'm glad that like this team of 5 NA players is going out there, especially with younger players, and like competing with Neo looking great and stuff. And then TL has just been like, wait, you just won lock-in like 2 weeks ago. Why are you losing all these games now? So that's been a bit of a bummer, but I'm not too worried about them.
Yeah, Dignitas is for sure my story because Afromu, people have been calling for his career to be over. People were calling for him to retire, and yet he does it again. He's been performing really well by himself, by the way, not just, the rookie whisper, and raising up these rookie 80 carries. He is performing individually so well. He's landing all these hooks, a lot of Alistar initiations, seeing him back on the Alistar once again. really does bring back some really good memories. Plus, then they've got all these guys that were rejected from all these different teams. Having the old 100 Thieves solo laners, Fake God and Saligo, get like their chance in earnest after popping in and out. What are those dogs? Prairie dogs that popping out of the holes. They had their little LCS, popping up, poking their heads out. Hey, we're here. So while we're moving around the import rule restrictions here for the team, and like got a couple games in LCS, and then they're like back down in academy. Get back down there.
I was gonna say who's got the hammer?
They're playing whack-a-mole, yeah, and then the owner's like, get back down there, back to academy.
But now with like their permanent starting spots, they get their chance in earnest. They're getting time on there to really develop synergies and improve with the team, and they're performing well. And it's just Dardoch obviously has a very long and controversial story as far as internal stuff with the teams and relationships with players and coaches and all that. And I just think that this squad has a lot of personality and story built into it, and the fact that they have won so many games and got the upset over TSM is one of the hottest stories.
I'm loving it, I would say.
Good one.
Yeah, 5 McDonald's can't win. All right, so Dignitas, I think a big story for everyone. They've been a lot of fun. You mentioned TL as being a disappointment. I would echo that, but I'm surprised that you didn't mention CLG as one of the kind of standouts for disappointment. I mean, I think that everyone is kind of just like quickly accepted, all right, CLG, you suck, but I feel like we had them in a decent position, when we did our preseason's power rankings. And yes, of course, there are still 9 games to play in the split. But I think a lot of people that I had talked to had the feeling that CLG could come out of the gate pretty hot, right? It's like, okay, you got this team with all these veterans. This was pre-Pobelter being swapped out and everything, of course. And all right, pre-Broxa having all the visa issues and whatnot. So there are some confounding factors. But I think a lot of people felt like, hey, Turtle's pretty solid. Things may be looking up. Maybe they'll pick up a bunch of wins early, and then they'll finish maybe like 6th to 8th range or something. But maybe they could squeak in playoffs. And they have just been so bad in the mid and late game, and it's been shocking. It's also like, I think it changed maybe a little bit after this week. But coming into this week, I was looking at some of the early game stats, and they were like doing pretty well. They were 5th, I think, as far as early game stats did win, as far as goal difference of 15 and some of the other early game stats. They have really good first blood rate.
9 for 9 first bloods.
But they just lose every game after that, and it's kind of surprising. So it feels like there are some things working for them, but they're so abysmal as far as their late game, and mid game decision making and shot calling, that even with good comps and gold leads, they seem to just never be able to win a game.
Yeah, I mean, we all had them in decent positionings before the season started due to the players that they did sign. Yes, they also ran into visa issues, and so part of it is that they didn't get to start with these players. But I mean, we even had people in story meetings saying, like, you're wrong. CLG is going to start out real hot out of the gate with, all these veterans and the intact synergies and all this coming out. But I think part of the reason everyone is so quick, as soon as it fell apart, to be ready to be like, yeah, never mind, expected that. That's fine. It's just CLG, because that is the story that follows this brand around because of so many of these previous years turning in this way. And so when you have games that are starting out so good for them and getting these gold leads in multiple ways, not just for finicky level 1s that happen to work out, and then they throw around these objectives or don't have great setup or have poor map movements later on, or whatever reason, start dropping these games. Everyone's like, okay, you're not going to fool me again, because I've been a CLG fan for a long time. I know to expect the counter logic. I just think that it is both funny, but also kind of sad that it just has happened again, because I really do feel for, as much as they keep on saying, oh yeah, we don't want to have excuses with all the visa issues and stuff like that. That it is a big hamper.
Mhm.
And I just it just feels rough because it's like the character at the I don't want to go back to the Batman. Never mind.
We're over Batman.
But they're exactly. They're always getting kicked down there at the bottom. Can't seem to catch a break.
I was gonna say I see them as Team Rocket. They always have a little victory early on in the episode. They get Pikachu somehow, but you always know Pikachu's gonna get away. They're never gonna keep Pikachu. That's the wind's always gonna find its way out of their grasp, and they're gonna go blasting off again. That's CLG, and I'm with you on like the somewhat hype about them early. I didn't feel bad when I drafted CLG's bot lane initially when I saw their roster for fantasy, because I was like, okay, well, I don't think it's going to be a great team, but this sounds like some decent value.
They're middle of the pack.
My 4th and 5th pick.
Yeah.
And you see some of the bright spots and why people were, I don't want to say hype on them, but at least like saw them as a middling team. When you see these early games, Finn has actually looked decent the last week and a half on his Aatrox, had a good Ornn game as well for the most part. Like he's been fine.
You know that they are better than this. You're
Yes.
like, this is ridiculous. I'm getting ripped off. Why are they 1-8? That just is not right. Okay. And then you're going back through all the games, there's this moment, there's that moment, there's all these different things that have happened. And kind of the most frustrating thing to me, I think, is actually that because they invested so much in veteran talent this time around, part of the reason why people are like, okay, this is for sure, a good baseline. They're going to be middle of the pack this season, was a lot due to, hey, they do have all these veterans with so much game experience. And it's kind of crazy that a lot of the downfall has been around, some of the later game calls, the setup for objectives, but also, deciding between two and pulling off some poor timings. The communication seems to be one of the biggest things that's lacking. That definitely can also be attributed to moving in and out players.
It's tough though, because it's like the communication, shot calling, just like being composed. Those are things that you associate with veterans, right? So it's like
That's what I'm saying.
people, yeah, exactly. It's just weird. It's like they have the exact problems that you wouldn't think they would have, right? In Golden Guardians, who is like the most green team, you expect to have all these problems. You expect to be, more of like a dumpster fire in the late game. They're the ones that are actually having more wins than CLG. So I definitely think it's really pretty depressing for CLG and for their fans, because this was a team that I was already frustrated with because of how they built their roster, because I felt like they were using the old wave of just like going to the most known quantities, like pick up the brands that instead of actually taking a swing at player development. And it felt like that had been a pretty big change in the league and how some teams were building their rosters this year, but they didn't really latch onto that. And not only did they not latch onto that, but they're doing worse than all the teams that did. So it feels like twice as bad, because they probably could have saved a lot of money getting rookies and been doing the same as they are now, but with maybe more bright prospects for the future. So CLG definitely down in the dumps.
Yeah.
But one team that I think isn't the surprise that is, positive, we didn't really get to talk about them much last week, was Cloud9, right? Cloud9 up at the top of the table. Yes, they are coming off a loss, but sitting at 7-2, number one overall. They feel like a team that has already did well in lock-in, to be fair, but they felt like they did a big jump forward out of the gate, while TL was kind of slowing down, and some of these teams were having some struggles. TSM was still having struggles, especially in those early weeks. C9 has looked really good. And a question I kind of want to pose to you guys is, how do you think Fudge has developed? How are you feeling about him halfway through this split now, right? If we're thinking, okay, you're a title contender, will he be a liability going forward, going into playoffs, going into potentially, the MSI showdown and MSI and all that stuff?
I think Fudge has been good. I think I said this, I think, right after the lock-in tournament, where I was like, I don't think he's as bad as he looks here, because he played Someday and Alfari right at like back-to-back in best of fives, earlier on in the season than you ever would have seen before, with less time to level up, going up against two of the most veteran players, but some of the best top laners in the world, honestly. Like, of course, him looking bad would be expected. And I think people kind of went too far into like, oh my God, look at him losing these matchups in a best of five while getting targeted. So now that things have evened out a little bit more the other way, I do think he's improved, but I think some of it is just a natural state from not having to play Alfari and Someday for 10 games in a row, so
yeah,
I think part of it's just that.
For sure, he has improved. His lane control, I think, is one thing that I've seen dramatically improve from some of the early games, and they have switched their strategies to him a lot more. Playing like Gragas absorb top side and not trying to play around that. So I would say yes, he definitely has improved and stabilized really well for Cloud9. But if you're talking about liability, as far as this Cloud9 roster was built to win. It is built to win North America. It is built to win in international play as well. You also need these options of being able to go back to what they opened some of the games in the split with, of playing Camille Jax matchups and playing top carries and playing counter picks on top side and focusing up around the top side. Because Blabber did it when they were against Ignite TP multiple times, and the opponent team did not actually play well around topside, which made it look a lot better for them. But I think that's definitely going to be the next hurdle, the next checkpoint for him. I do think he's been on a good and steady pathway for improvement though for the team. It's just that this team is up there with we have the Team Liquid Cloud9 ranks, even 100 Thieves I think in there now. They are built to win. So you are always looking at how are they going to compare against the best.
Yeah, I think Fudge has earned his spot in the Power Rangers. He's not a liability, and that's just how I feel about that team. Everyone's so good across the board. Vulcan, Sven.
So he's a Power Ranger, but
everyone,
he's like the least popular fan.
He's Billy,
Power
the Blue Ranger. He's Billy the Blue Ranger.
When they
was Blue not popular?
He was the nerd.
What is it called when they transform? Is it Megazord or something?
Megazord's the combination.
Yeah, exactly, right? So he's like maybe like the left foot or something.
He's part of the Megazord. Though.
He's part of the Megazord.
You can't have a one-legged Megazord hopping around.
I mean, he's in there. He's part of it, but he's just like the foot. It's not
and
where
he's
your
not
eye
the
is
dominant
drawn.
foot. It's the back foot, right?
Exactly.
You're like when I'm playing kickball, I'm kicking with my other foot.
Kicking with the other foot, yeah. Exactly. You're kicking with the Sven foot, or so. The Fudge foot is to stand on. He's got to be that tank. It's got to be that stable ground.
Good cartoon usage this time around, guys.
Good stuff.
What other child shows can we ruin? I did Pokemon.
We've got a
Power
lot.
Rangers.
Save
Batman.
some for next week. We need to be able to spread out this
I don't think we need to keep it going. Get them all out of your system now.
We definitely do.
We'll have a different theme next
Find a
time.
Digimon one here coming up.
All right, all the 6 and 3 teams. We got 100 Thieves, TSM, Dig, all sitting around there. How are you guys feeling about, there's a lot of kind of feeling, I think, in the community now that 100 Thieves have like regressed a little bit, that they are maybe getting solved a bit or not as good as people originally thought. There's also obviously people on Dignitas are kind of expecting the other shoe to fall and them to start losing games. Like, where are you guys standing with them? How do you feel about TSM?
For 100 Thieves, starting there, I don't think there's any huge regression. I think that there is always leeway built into a lot of these games, and they came away with wins in quite a few games where they screwed up big early on, and then people look back at the record and they're like, oh man, they won all these games, they've been winning every single game. Now they're regressing, that they started dropping some, and they're focusing really hard on the actual match result rather than the match itself. There was inherent risk all along in these 100 Thieves games. And it was fun to watch, and it was really exciting, and I love it. But even their coach, Tony, keeps on saying, like, I feel like we could beat any team, but we could also lose to any team. And you see it in some of some of the plays that come out. I really like that they still retain this very focused direction that they want to take their game. They know themselves. They want to push limits. They want to take risks. They want to do tower dives. They want to, get more out of every objective trade without giving much back to their opponents. And so I think it's a good path for them to be on. I don't think it's a huge regression. I think we're just seeing some of the other side of the percentage plays, actually. The most recent loss was definitely also playing a bit worse. So So there is that. There is always going to be some variance in stage play, though.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I would say I cooled on them a little bit, if I'm being honest. Though, like I think other teams in the league have improved a little bit from lock-in. Like TSM right now is obviously not the TSM from before. Dig is obviously better as well. You know,
That's
like
fair.
some of the other teams in the league have stepped up. So it's not even necessarily like 100 Thieves got worse, but I haven't seen them continue to get better. It feels like in recent weeks.
Got to keep
while
pace.
C9. Yeah, C9 has gotten better for sure. TL's regressed, but like 100 Thieves just seems to be still one of the best teams in the league for sure. But I haven't seen them really do anything new. And I, like you said, I like their play style. Like I like that they're so proactive. I like that they go for plays. Some of them don't work out, and then they do stick around in games. They don't like make big game losing plays that like blow the game up, and it's a 30-minute loss. So I think you could even argue that's a bit of a positive for them, maybe. But I haven't seen the individual dominance that I've seen from some of the other teams. Even Someday has taken a bit of a backseat compared to how it was during the lock-in tournament. And the coordinated dives have not been as clean either.
Yeah, that is one of the things that really stands out to me. And to Kobe's point, there is variance on these plays, right? When you're going for dives, not every dive can be perfect. There is inherent risk associated with it. But it did feel like in lock-in in the early weeks that they were just able to pull it off like that every single time. And now they're having more of them turned around on them. Now they're having, it feels like, less opportunities to get that set up to do it because I think teams are always expecting it and are trying to craft their game plan somewhat around that. I think 100 Thieves is a really good team. You know, as far as their mid-season form, you know, FBI had the interview this weekend. I think it was FBI, you know, saying that they're the best team in the league, and he feels that they're the best team in the league. I'm not buying what he's selling for that just yet. I think that they are, you know, a top 3, top 4 team right now. And, you know, could they continue to make that improvement and have that growth throughout the second half? Definitely. I think that they'll be a championship contender potentially. But right now, I do feel like they have taken a little bit of a step back in my power rankings compared to how they looked in lock-in, just because, like you said, other teams are improving and it hasn't felt like they have as much. Speaking of some of the teams that are improving, I do think that TSM feels like they're finally getting their shit together a bit. They are looking quite a bit better. Yes, they had their loss. I'm trying to even remember who that loss was to that they just are actually coming off of. But
it wasn't the Dig one, was it?
Yeah, maybe it was. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of. I could actually just pull up the match history. Yeah, it was the Dig game. Which honestly, that game was kind of not a great one because it felt like they were just forcing things that they really didn't need to. You know, in my opinion, they had a really, really good scaling comp. You know, they had the Lulu top, they had Corky, like they have the ability, I feel like, to just win a game with almost just that combo alone if you just play it slow. And they were playing a pretty even game where it felt like they were pressured, you know, when at least like looking at it from the spectator point of view, it's so easy because you just look at the gold, you're like, the gold is close, everything's feeling pretty good. But maybe they felt like they were on the back foot, so they like had to force it Baron and stuff. But I think that was just a bit of a bad game read. And they kind of misunderstood the position that they were in because I think they could have played that game slow and probably just won late for sure. But TSM still, prior to that, was a 6-game winning streak, right? And overall, it feels like they have found their footing much better. Sword Art individually looks so much better and is also working with the team much better. And I think the incorporation of him into their squad is so important, right? That was their big bet for the offseason, is getting this, you know, superstar support and bringing him in. He's supposed to dominate the league like Core JJ. So I think it is really, really key that not only are they getting these wins, but he's been a huge part of them, right? I think it was the Saturday game where, you know, he roamed mid, got a kill mid, then immediately bases, goes top, gets a kill top. Like he was a large part of a lot of their wins. And I think, you know, that spells pretty good things for TSM.
Yeah, there's some specific things that you can easily point to with the balance that TSM kind of have brought to their team, where a lot of their early losses were, you know, a lot of misplays early on where they were making some super rushed calls and some super rushed individual plays, like even just minimal trades that like Huni was going for. But Huni specifically, they clearly made a directional change within the team to say, hey, you are going to play more defensive minded. A lot of the time it is going to be weak side. He's coordinating his TPs well with them. He's not taking as many of those risks. Plus, another key thing alongside that is Power of Evil, using his teleport so frequently for the team. I wanted to put up a counter, and I didn't go through all of the games, but he had 6 of his early teleports across multiple of their games to cover 4 teammates. A lot of times it is top side when people are attacking Huni, but it was also for bottom side. A lot of using his teleport for team rather than to get back to lane, and that's changing the whole course of these games because TSM clearly decided we are going to counter some of the first moves that our opponents make instead of extending ourselves for a lot of our plays that are not working right now. And it started with that big sweep, the Azir game on bottom side, but it kept on going. There's so many plays, side lanes he's getting there even later in the game. I just think that TSM started covering a lot better than they had been before.
And I think it matches a lot of the identity that you would expect from TSM based off some of the players, like PoE being a late game control mage player for the most part, like slowing the pace of the game down, looking to negate some of the other team's plays to then outscale, or whether to do drape control or other things like that. I think they simplified their drafts. Huni's just blind pick duty now for the most part. He had it. I forget if he got it in the Dig game, but he had been 4 in a row prior to that, I believe. In 5 of the 8 games, he was blind picked. So it feels like he's kind of on that duty of like, yeah, we know you have some crazy stuff, but Huni is actually a team player, despite what people kind of have the perception of him being like this crazy counterpick guy who wants the game played around him. From my understanding, he actually is decent about playing with the team. So overall, I think they simplified their game plan. They're going kind of later than some of the teams like 100 Thieves are trying to do, but it's working for them and their personnel. So I like it. Feels like a bit of a Bjerg approach. I feel like I can see the coaching guiding hand saying, no, don't.
I mean, you can
go for
literally.
that.
It does feel like someone was just like, calm down after some of the early losses.
You're Azir. Just wait to 25 minutes.
So it's funny you say that. Is that a good thing or a bad thing then? Right? If we just get the same TSM that you've had so many years, it's like, does this then spell trouble for international play when you're talking about they're playing calm, they're playing a slower approach, they're going for late game, they're less.
Just real quick to that, I would say they were in trouble, and so you need to have this calm down reset moment. Okay. I definitely agree, and I can see where you're going. Where like, okay, now that you've reset. It's basically a launching off point, right?
Point,
you stabilized,
right?
Yeah. Now get back out there.
I was gonna throw on Sword Art as like but this guy's still going ham. Like he's still roaming a lot. Sword Art's making plays on the Pantheon and the Rel and stuff. So like I don't think I've seen them just like totally go AFK farm for 25 minutes. They're still making plays. So I'm not too worried about like a totally reactive play style right now.
All right, I know we've touched on TL a little bit, but what do you think is wrong with TL? TL, EG.
Jat.
2 teams that definitely Jat agreed. Next point, no. TL and EG, 2 teams that were really hot in the lock-in, right? Of course, EG didn't do as well in the knockout stage, but they were undefeated in their group up to a certain point. I think they lost 1 game. And TL obviously won lock-in. Both these teams are sitting at 5-4, middle of the pack. What's going on?
Bad time to ask me. I was drinking water.
Well, it could have been Kobe, but Kobe was like, nah.
I was reading something. I'm not looking at the visual.
Apologies.
Mark, so
I think
can
TL.
See that you're drinking water.
The issues are that they're bad. No, I think they peaked a little bit too early. Maybe. I think sometimes like how hard you're training and these kinds of things. I don't know exactly what their regimen was, but Tactical said he's been feeling a little burned out, and they did win lock-in tournament. And I can see there being
this early.
I agree. I mean, it's not good, but that's what he had an interview about it. And so like he thinks maybe that's why he's not quite playing as well. And I can see a world where maybe they tried really hard for lock-in or something, or there's just like a bit of an emotional like roller coaster downturn of like, hey, we did it, and then you're in like the week 1 kind of feeling. So I can see a little bit of a hangover maybe, but I think the bot lane really has not been playing as well. They were hard dumpstering everything in lock-in tournament.
Yeah.
Alfari was leading the top laners in solo kills per game. Bot lane had been getting 2v2 kills nearly every single game. And they were naturally winning so hard that I think that they could kind of just do that, like, show up to lanes and dive because we already have the wave built, because we already chunked them out with better trades, and we already have priority in the other lanes to roam for this dive. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's all going quite as smoothly, and they have struggled to kind of make those plays happen once the individual, whether it's they dropped off or the other team's caught up,
On the other side of it, I would say I am happy that they did not reactively off of just the slight dip go, okay, we are also going to, revert and stabilize and just cover. They stayed true on the same course of constantly pushing the tempo of the game, constantly looking to be the ones dictating what objective is coming up next. Core JJ still, even after he did have a couple of poor performances, and as the leader of the team, still constantly looking for these and pushing the game state forward for this squad. And we saw them immediately bounce back. They had their, match of the week highlight versus Cloud9. Guess what? Even though Team Liquid were on a downslide, they were still extremely proactive. They kept Alfari on off. Wait, what was his pick? It was Renekton. Yeah, see, they kept him on lane dominance. Didn't die a single time. They pushed side lanes. They have Core JJ initiating for them. They did not let up on that game. It was one of the quicker games that we've had in the LCS. So I think that yes, Tactical has come out himself and said, "Hey, I am struggling right now. I got burnt out. We have been working on it internally." And they did have some poor performances in a couple of their games, but doesn't feel like they've had any big crisis. So I'm not worried.
I think that they're going to bounce back strong. I mean, the other thing is, even just statistically, they're the best early game team in the league by a lot, right? It's like they have an average goal difference of like over 1,500 ahead. Second best in the league is under 1K, so they're like more than 50% above in that. They have the fastest win time in the league, so in their wins they're pretty dominant. They have good early games, so I do think they're going to get things together. I'm honestly more concerned now that I heard that burnout thing, though. I actually hadn't seen that interview. To me, that's kind of worrying. Honestly, we're week 3 in spring. LoL Esports has a pretty rough year as far as like it is a grind. Let's be honest. These players grind. They play a lot. If you're on a bad team, it's actually kind of cushy. Like you get a lot of time off, to be honest. If you don't make playoffs,
couple months for MSI,
yeah, exactly. You don't make playoffs, then you have a huge gap between the end of regular season and the start of summer, and then a huge gap after summer when you don't make playoffs again. But if you are a top team and you're going straight to the finals, you're going to MSI, you're going to Worlds, you're going to All-Stars, you're going to all these things, you have a long year ahead of you, right? Like he's got to play till November. We just started, 6 weeks ago, and he's basically got until November to get a break, like to get a serious break. So if you're already feeling burnt out this early, I hope that they can make some serious adjustments because he's a very young player, and usually I would say burnout is a lot less common with the guys who are really fresh to the league and really excited about it, and generally like they're more known as the grinders, and it's often the veterans who have to like play some less games. Not a rule, but it is more common that way. So hopefully they can figure that out, because that makes me a little bit worried for Tactical and how he's going to be feeling come MSI, come summer, come Worlds.
I would definitely recommend you watch the interview, because they go in depth about it. He talks about how the coaching staff is working on it already with him. He's doing some stuff outside of League. He says League was literally the only thing that he ever did. Even though, he is pretty young. He has been grinding away for a long time to get to where he is now. So I think it's good that it is on their radar, and they have multiple people working on it and helping him with it.
All right, how about EG? Good, bad? What are you thinking?
Good. What? There's no way that a bad is a possible answer here for EG. Consider what you kind of expected from this team and their performance thus far. I think it has to be good, because as much fun as it was to laugh and meme about Jizuke's back-to-back tower dives and ints, I think that he actually has been very strong for this team. It's statistically not even an argument from his previous year, last year, how night and day much better it has been for him. But also the rest of the team. I think Impact is such a good voice for this. Putting Impact with Jizuke, and we don't even have access to their comms. Just from knowing those two people, knowing those two players, it does feel like it should help out in balancing a lot. every teammate that I've ever talked to who's played with Impact talks about how much he adds to their macro, to their shot calling, how good he is at communicating from the top lane, which is very important for your solo laners, especially later on. And he's already shown it in these games. Just this last weekend, the super memey, tilt proof type of game from him where he gets camped and he's apologizing afterwards. Sorry, I got camped, guys. Sorry, I died to that gank. I should be able to get out of these situations, and then still performs in the team fights. I just think that this is definitely one of the heartwarming stories, I think, because it also does have some of the guys like Jizuke got benched, definitely got super hard flamed before even coming in because he had that small stint that people just stick in their minds. First impressions really do last a long time and mean a lot. And I think that he has also been performing well. So I give it a thumbs up.
I guess I'll be Scrooge here because, I don't disagree necessarily with anything you said. I think on an eyeball test level, I've been more impressed by them than their record has shown. Definitely people thought he was going to come in and just be this safe KDA player. He's actually been pretty good, and Ignar's been the level you would have expected and hoped coming from FlyQuest, and Impact's even arguably been better, and they're 5-4. So on the one hand, yes, I agree that a lot of the player stories feel a lot better than and even the team story a little bit, but we had placed them, I think, power ranking wise around 5th, 6th-ish. They're 5th, 6th-ish right now, tied with Team Liquid. They're where we honestly expected, even if it looks a little bit better. So I can't say I'm negative. I'm definitely not negative. I'm not on the negative side, but I just don't know,
You're just not on the positive side either.
I'm just not on the positive side. I'm just kind of in the middle, man.
I love this eternal Mark struggle with trying to have possible positive takes, because this is what I focus so much on, is how the beyond game scores of how games look. I just think that's so funny, but definitely fair, Mark.
Mark is feeling very room temp right now on EG.
I'm just man, this looks so much better than I thought, and they're 5-4, and I'm not sure that they finish much better than 10-8 either. Maybe they finish 11-7 or something.
Yeah.
It just still doesn't feel like a huge success. I don't know.
Well, and for
I'm
me,
happy for the players.
It's preseason expectations versus now is okay. That's about where it was. But the reason why I feel a little bit more negative, kind of more on Mark's side, is that I got really excited at the start of lock-in. I was like, "Damn, EG, you're way better than I thought." Right? You're actually super positive. This is sick. And Impact's busting out the Renekton and slamming everyone on Renekton back to back to back to back. And
they
then
got to manage their expectations better. They got Azael excited.
They did.
Shit.
They did. I was like, "Oh, EG, okay. I like what you're selling. I'm liking it. And then it was kind of just back to what I was expecting, which is why it feels a little bit disappointing to me. It's not a disaster by any means, but it was cool to see Impact playing so dominant, right? And I do feel like everyone's like, "Oh, it's actually not a playstyle change. It was just Renekton." And then Renekton has been permabanned against him all spring split, and Impact has just looked like Impact. And that's not bad by any means. He's a great player. He's a great weak side player. Yeah. He doesn't play, generally a lot of lane pressure stuff. Yes, he did have that one game, as you say, where it was, getting camped and he had some good things happening for him. But I do feel like in an era where we're getting more counter picks and whatnot top lane, and we started to see the Jax coming out a lot as this answer to Camille, and we're getting Ignite Camille, and we're getting all these more aggressive things. He does feel like he's a step behind as far as the meta goes.
Give me Impact Shen into Camille then. I don't give a shit about Jax. Forget it.
But
give me the Shen.
But the problem is
this man will 1v9.
The problem is he's getting, people are blind picking stuff into him, and it's becoming that situation before when GP was super meta and you just knew Impact didn't have an answer. So people would blind pick GP against TL, and he would just pick a tank and self counter. And it feels like we're getting back to that now, which is the thing that feels a little bit dicey. Where I'm like, okay, well, how high is your ceiling then? Because if you're just gonna blind pick Gnar with Aurelia up and stuff because you don't have any other picks, it's like, oh well, that feels a little bit bad. I think that he plays really well on the champions he does have, but I just don't think he's ever going to move outside of that wheelhouse.
I will say another thing adding to my happiness and positive take for this team is listening to the players' interviews afterwards, where Impact actually addressed this specifically, saying that this team, this EG team, trusts him more than Team Liquid, and they are willing to play and pick for him for what he prefers. Now, I would have liked it more if he actually, I would have liked it more if he actually had slammed an Aurelia pick. And we had
Freak
seen
was like
that,
flaming
but
him.
I'm taking it on good faith. Okay.
Freak was like, he said this, and then he doesn't pick it. I'm saying he's lying. He's not doing that at all.
He's going to Freak court.
Freak has a tendency to go with some bad faith arguments. Maybe I'll go good faith.
But it's nice if they trust him. But he's got to show. Okay, great. They trust you. Then show that you can do it.
Freak's like, I don't trust you. I don't care if your team trusts you. You gotta convince me.
Yeah.
Moving on to 3 of the development teams, I don't think we hit on too much. Immortals, FlyQuest, Golden Guardians, currently in the bottom half of the league, kind of expected. Is there anything about any of the 3 that jump out to you? Like overall, I'm relatively happy with them, even though they don't have winning records. Like
we talked a long time about CLG, so
yeah, skip CLG.
Immortals, FlyQuest, and Golden Guardians.
Okay.
So I would say, a couple quick hits for me. Golden Guardians, when I think about it, I'm actually more happy with how they did than I expected. I would not have been mind blown if they didn't win a game this year, or at least this split. I actually wouldn't have been that shocked with 2 people straight out of collegiate. Mm-hmm. Are there some glaring errors in their gameplay? Yes. Surprise, surprise. You have 2 guys that came straight from collegiate, where they're playing against, Bob and his bud Tim, and now they're playing against Someday and Alfari, right? It's like, okay.
Not that different. His name's Barney.
There you go. True. Yeah. So, it just feels like it's such an enormous step up from the competition that they had. And you can see how that is being punished, right? Iconic, I think, is extremely passive. He doesn't seem to adapt his playstyle based on the draft, which I think is a pretty huge problem. I think the Pantheon game was a great example of that, where it's like you did all this clever counterpicking and you flex picks your Pantheon top with your last pick, Gragas, to make that support. And then you get this matchup into Camille where you're going to gank it nonstop, and then your jungler never came top a single time the whole game, and your Pantheon was useless. And so, that was disappointing for my Iconic to see, okay, well, you didn't even really know what your win condition was. You didn't change your game plan at all. You're just going to farm and hope that you do well late game. And, he's pretty good at that. He's pretty good at farming and team fighting. But, you need to be able to do more than just one thing, especially if you're drafting for something else. And, I mean, Niles is getting a lot of criticism. But I mean, Niles is a huge weakness for his team, right? His laning isn't very good, and it feels like he plays. This sounds like worse than I mean it, but it feels like he plays how I do and how a lot of people do in solo queue, where it's just you just play as though the jungler doesn't exist, right? And you play for the 1v1 purely. And when you watch the absolute best top laners, they are so good at knowing where the jungler could be, knowing when to back off, knowing when they're safe, when they have to base at timings with the wave in a bad spot. They just understand this at a much higher level. And that to me is one of the biggest differences between the good solo queue players and the great competitive top laners, is such an understanding of that. Because you'll watch some of these guys, and the thing that always impresses me the most is Alfari or Someday or Impact or these guys. Their wave will be in this awkward spot, not doing it to any of their own fault, but because of jungle pressure, because of something that's happening, the map gets split in half or whatever. And I'm like, oh man, you're so screwed. And then you look 10 minutes down the line and they still have 8 or 9 or 10 CS per minute, right? They didn't even really get behind off of it. They somehow managed to stay relevant while being pressured constantly and not dying to ganks. So I think that's something that Niles clearly needs to work on. Even the Gragas game where he tried to stay around and reset the wave when Licorice had just TP'd back in, and there was and he was there was just no chance he was ever going to be able to do it. He got way too greedy. So hopefully we'll be able to see that development week over week. But the fact that they actually did pick up 2 wins, I think, is pretty positive for Golden Guardians. For FlyQuest, I'm more down on them. I expected actually more out of FlyQuest. I thought that they were going to be more sitting, up with the EG kind of style grouping.
Yeah, I think that Licorice has had some standout moments for this team, but I definitely I don't know. I guess with some of the success of some of the other developmental rosters at different moments, I was expecting more explosive moments like that from FlyQuest as well. I think Jose Diodo has also had some good highlight moments, but I guess I had to extend my allotted time for for development roster for this one, as far as the ramp up time for them. I'm still pulling for them and hoping that we see those improvements realized on stage, but it does feel like it is taking a little bit longer than expected.
Yeah, to circle back to Golden Gardens really quickly, I was just gonna say that a lot of times people watch their games and they're winning and they get really critical about how they're not closing the game out. Like with Blaze Olive in particular, being really slow about going in when he could have on the
was kind of
Tristana.
egregious, yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I think people need to remember that this is like a super developmental roster, and so to your point, the fact that they still closed that game out and didn't throw it away when we've seen teams like CLG throw away games that were arguably as winning of a position, like I don't fault them too hard for it, and it's like overall a positive sign. And I think just need to remind people to chill out a little bit when the new player who's an academy player playing with collegiate players doesn't make the optimal play. Like I'm okay with it, even if it is a little painful in the moment. We're not holding them to Team Liquid standard. And for FlyQuest, totally agree. Wanted more out of Licorice in this squad. But I do like the mid laners for them and Immortals. I think Insanity and Palafox have both looked pretty good. So I'm definitely feeling good about a lot of these teams actually and the players on them.
I think one thing that could actually see some pretty big gains for FlyQuest is just the other players on the team learning how to enable Licorice, if that makes sense. Because one thing I did really notice, and I'm not trying to say he's played perfect, he's definitely had some rough games too. That's not really the point. But just when I have seen him in winning situations, the Gangplank game that he played really stood out to me, where they did get him ahead. He was in a great spot, and it just felt like they weren't really sure how to push that forward. And I don't know if that's him not asking for it or them just being in a losing situation, but it's like they're not getting wards out for him to split push. They're not actually shadowing him with their jungler to defend him on this split push, to be able to enable him to extend their lead. And that's something that I think FlyQuest has struggled with, is actually, even when they get themselves into a pretty good spot, being able to extend that advantage and knowing how best to do that, right? If you have a strong player on your team, how are you going to enable them to extend that lead instead of just having it stagnate? And I think there have been a couple of examples of how FlyQuest have got at least like one strong member, but aren't really playing around that member to help enable them to carry the game.
All right. Well, let's jump into a quick anchor question here, as we are bumping up against our meeting time in the afternoon because we have had some technical difficulties this morning. So, anchor question number one, right off the bat, Adam, he's got a question about Mundo, possible rework here, how to make him viable for pro on stage.
With Mundo getting a rework, how could Riot balance him so that his kit identity stays the same, with Mundo goes where he pleases, no hard CC, but make him a viable pick for the pro stage? Thanks, guys.
To me, the problem with Mundo has always been, and from working on playtest and with some of the designers and stuff in the past, I just think that characters that are so reliant on healing for their tankiness are inherently hard to balance, because it almost is just like dependent upon your opponents not knowing how to build to be successful. And with heal cut being so prevalent in the game right now, I just don't think that Mundo in his current state would be effective. So to me, the answer is, how do you actually balance him and keep his kit identity? I don't think that you can keep the kit identity the exact same. I think that he has to become less reliant on healing to be tanky and get that elsewhere. I mean, you can still have the guy throwing cleavers and have his abilities be similar, but maybe make the ultimate more about the move speed and more about tankiness or something. Because I just think that when you have a character that's heavily reliant on healing to make him tanky, it's so easy to counter that. Every bruiser in the game just like rushes executioners against you in lane, and then in 5v5 there's now 60% heal cut items that are going to destroy you, so they have to shift his power elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, with healing not being a unique part of his kit anymore, with healing being so prevalent across every other champion and every rune, and it can be basically and any item even now with the power of Gore Drinker. I definitely agree on the healing point. As far as the rest of the kit, I also think that a tank if he is going to remain a tank and he's not pushed into like some sort of health DPS melee champion, a tank without hard CC, like actual stun or actual snares, not just slow, and without a dash, is really hard to make fun. if you're just going off the theme of I can go where I please, that just doesn't sound very fun or interactive to me, because you can stack him with tenacity and you can make him hard to take down, but I think there does need to be some other factor added to the kit. Some sort of more mobility maybe, if you don't want to go the route and turn him into like there's so many other tanks that do have hard CC. Maybe mobility and that is the way to go.
Put unstoppable on a actual non-ultimate cooldown. It's his E goes unstoppable. Figure out the rest of the kit from there.
Ornn already has an unstoppable on a non.
Yeah, but you go like
cooldown,
and then you go like 2 feet forward.
True.
No. You press it and you go unstoppable for 4 seconds and you just run wherever the hell you want.
Yeah.
I don't know what the rest of the kit is.
I mean, the reason Mundo got in there before was because he was so hard to kill, right? Like heal cut was way less common, and he was just so absurdly tanky that you could get away without actually having, super high amounts of CC, because he has a really easy laning phase. Like you can just farm with cleavers pretty much forever. There's like very few matchups that really, really punish him because of that. It's not that bad to farm, but he needs to be a super tank to function if you're not going to have CC or have pretty high DPS to actually be able to threaten going backline, because otherwise you just don't have enough utility to get in there. But I like Mundo. Haven't played him in a long time because I think he's terrible now. So hopefully that rework is going to bring some new life to him, and it'd be cool to see him in competitive.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for us now. Thank you again for tuning in. Thank you to Honda for making this episode possible. Remember that you can check us out on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, the new YouTube channel, by the way, .com/LCS. And you can also send us in your questions on Twitter using the hashtag #TheDiveLol, or send us your voice messages on your anchor.fm page. Catch us again next week, 5 a.m. on Tuesday.